mic over on OBS. All right, hello everybody. Give me just a second to switch over to scenes here. I've got to figure out also the echo on both sides of the spectrum. That's settings and stuff. All right, so I guess I'll put up with myself being heard like twice over, but that's fine. Minor difficulties. With an echo, yes. That. Oh. So, like, are we good, Pix, or are you still hearing the echo behind, like a second or two later? Or anyone else, really, just let me know. Okay. Yeah, I do have the headphones in too, but yeah, for some reason I hear myself like a second later. I'm not sure if it's just settings. He can't apparently, like, you are not being heard on stream though, even though I can hear you just fine. So hold on, let me just check. Control audio via OBS. I'm assuming I need to enable it on my end too, or Pix, can you hear Musterman now? Just testing. Or anyone else? Yeah, still enough. Yeah, let me just make sure in this case I didn't have it under OBS for the audio control. I think now we may have gotten it. Hold on. I added the sources in, so... Yeah, I'm not seeing anything come up on the audio volume for some reason here. Hold on. Nothing, yeah. Hold on here. The fun aspects of adding something new entirely to stuff. Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. Audio output. Send audio with your camera to browser source. I think we may have gotten it now.
Cool. Shall we try that then? Hello.
Yeah, I think I can see it now, but definitely the audio quality seems to be suffering for it.
Let me have a look to see whether it helps at all if I take off all the filters that I have on. So I'm checking through OBS, but it won't be. It's coming through via the mic directly, isn't it? This microphone is direct through Elgato. If I do a check here, okay, I can hear myself back now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can hear us, like, that portion is fine. I think we just might have to put up with the minor echoing, like, audio quality wise as it's going to OBS, but I think that's a minor situation compared to where we were before, where it was just non existent on the audio. So,
Cool. Well, yeah. Shall we give it a crack and see how long before chat turns around and says this is unbearable to listen to?
might as well, yeah, definitely. Oh, okay, so in your guys' end is sounding good. Perfect. That's all we need to know then. That is fine. We'll put up with it on our end. But all right, so hello everyone. First and foremost, welcome to this impromptu edition of a Moneyball clinic with good old Mustard Man over here. As my camera quality seems to be, I don't know, on OBS it looks a little bit funky, but it seems on Twitch it's fine. So I'm gonna just go with whatever Twitch is showing in that case. But yeah, I ended up finishing my 9th season of the Portuguese save I've been running on YouTube for quite some time now. The season didn't quite end in the best of notes. We had a pretty good year, all things considered, where still got into top 4 of the Portuguese league, only 4 points behind the eventual champions in FC Porto. It then also had the Europa League finals appearance in which we got to against AC Milan, got beaten 3-1 unfortunately, so there was that caveat, and then we got knocked out of cup competition. So really our only trophy that year was the Supertaça, the Super Cup. So not as good of a year as season 8, but still we've had some upwards movement overall. But with this upcoming season, I just had the feeling that with the month to come and the way that our players played, we could see some movement where certain players may be given too much money and they're like, well, I want to leave now. So decided to prepare myself accordingly for that, take a more data driven approach, and that's where Musterman comes in. So, welcome to the season 10 off season / Moneyball clinic of União de Tomar.
Well, yeah. First, thank you very much for having me, Chris. Absolute pleasure. Second, brace yourself as I now tell you to sell everybody, and only buy random scrubs on £10 a week. It doesn't matter that they're bad; their output will just be better than you expect for a tenner a week.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. It comes with the nature of it. So that said, should we kind of, what are you thinking? Kind of look at the team first and sort of the because this is the first time we're going to be using your skin to look at this save overall. So just want to kind of take a look at some of the players and crack on with what they did best, what they did worse, etc., etc.
So I think it would help possibly to actually put the spotlight all on you to begin with, which is to ask you to kind of talk us through your tactical approach, what it is that you want your team to be doing, what the tactics you've used, or the tactic you're planning on using for the upcoming season, because from there that will kind of inform what we're looking at from the players and seeing where those marginal gains might be.
Yeah, perfectly understandable on that portion. So, throughout the course of the save, for the most part, 99% of the time, we have been using some sort of variation of a 4-2-3-1. Mainly, throughout most of the last season, we used this Abel Ferreira inspired from his 2021-22 season. 4-2-3-1, but I did play around with variations of it with a mixture that would take the double DM roles and have them be midfielders instead, central midfielders, and try to mix it up that way with a poacher up top instead of an advanced forward, and then implemented sort of a newer 4-2-3-1 where we'd still keep the central midfielders, but have the center attacking midfielder be a shadow striker role while having the advanced forward more on the center right aspect. And I've been playing around with this one to where I will switch these positions around depending on the foot, like the stronger foot of each specific player. So if they're left foot adjacent, keep the attacking midfielder on the center left. If it's right foot adjacent, switch them here and then have like a left footed striker on this side instead, just to kind of have that cohesion around and not have the advanced playmaker kind of like interfere with the upfront roles as they were moving into spaces and what have you. But for this upcoming season, I have been thinking more of using this particular 4-2-3-1, having seen some success in different saves, different areas, and just liking how it lines up, how it kind of shifts into a 4-2-4 with the shadow striker when we are on a more attacking approach to it. So considering that, but still not opposed to moving into the other two as situational circumstances permit it.
Cool, that makes sense. So I think from my understanding, could you flick back to the Abel Ferreira one just for a second? So the Abel Ferreira one had an inverted fullback at right back, I think. Is it? And
Yes.
then defensive midfielder Volante in midfield. So the roles of your central midfielders, despite being higher up, are generally quite similar. You've got one midfielder who's a little bit more defensive minded, the other that kind of helps support the attack.
Pretty much,
all the other roles. Sorry. The major difference. Oops. Sorry. The major difference is your right back goes from an inverted fullback on defend to a fullback on attack. So you've got a big difference there in terms of what we might look at in terms of expectations of output.
Correct.
Cool. Brilliant. Okay. So my consideration there would be that, right, we've got a lot of consistency. Despite the change in formation, we've got a lot of consistency. So we know that we've got a left back who we're going to be looking at in terms of their creative and attacking output. We've got centre backs who are we'll talk mainly in possession at the moment. We've got centre backs who are looking to be creative from deep. You've got a right full back that needs to be flexible. Got one defensive minded midfielder, one supporting midfielder. You've got two goal scorers kind of centrally. So your attacking midfielder, your shadow striker is a goal scoring threat. Your advanced forward / poacher is a goal scoring threat. And then you've got kind of more creative players out on the wings. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Cool, marvelous. Then yeah, let's have a look at the players. Let's. Does it make sense to go through it by position?
Yeah, definitely. Give me just a second here.
In fact, I mean, obviously. Sorry, after you.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just basically going into it to try to get the echo effects out of the way here. Seems I did it on my side, and then with yours. I got a notification of sorts. Matzel96, thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. Matzel. Okay. Nothing too bad. But yeah, let's go into the players here. Perfect.
So I might suggest going via the squad planner screen, because this might be a good idea to also understand your assessment of your players currently. You're obviously going to have a lot more context about which players played in which situations as well. There may be players who've got really good performance, but that's because they only ever played against scrubs. So would you say that this is probably an accurate representation of your goalkeeping hierarchy at the moment, with Radkovic ahead of Pinto?
Moment, yes.
Cool. Shall we check out Radkovic to begin with then?
Yeah, let's do it. So, for context, Radkovic did come in halfway through the season. Our original keeper, Hemi Boishiro, who was a fantastic keeper all around, he had his release clause met by West Ham United through the January transfer window. So, Radkovic kind of was a last-minute acquisition during that deadline, but for a young 22-year-old keeper, he didn't do too bad given the circumstances and the expectations that were there, but he was definitely a drop off from what we were initially given. He's still young, has some potential to grow, but I'm not opposed to the idea of if we find a better keeper in the market that is affordable, of kind of giving that position an upgrade compared to what we currently do have.
Fair dues. So yeah, from the look here, we conceded 1.42 goals. That's kind of middle of the pack per game. 3 saves isn't bad. He is conceding more than expected. It's not by a major amount, so not necessarily alarming. But it is worth considering that it's essentially a goalkeeper's job is to stop goals, right? And if he's below what's expected, technically I would question whether he's doing his job. If I was being super mean. But otherwise, he's winning possession quite a decent amount. So he's in there about the 70th percentile for possession won, about the 65th, 60th percentile for possession lost. So he's doing a reasonable job as a sweeper keeper. Looks pretty solid. Like there doesn't seem to be anything worrisome, if that's so. Bless you, Winter Soldier, by the way. Thank you very much.
Travis, yep, hello. He's also in the Big Beer Club like QR, Busterman, so you two have many things to bond over in that regard. So
beards are the way forwards. That nothing personal, Chris, but I'd never trust a man without a beard.
Oh, don't worry about it. I completely understand. I just cannot grow one for the life of me, so I just decided to give up on that sooner rather than later. So we're good.
Cool. Shall we have a look at the other keepers as well? Well, actually, if Rankovic is if Rankovic is the starter, if we could do it through the comparison screen. If you go into comparison and
I can do that. Diogo Pinto was our backup initially at the start of the season, and he sort of filled in more often this year because Radkovic did pick up a fairly. It was an injury that kept him out for a little while, so Pinto did have a couple more performances that him. Let me go into the medical form here. So he had 2 twisted ankles within the matter of twisted ankle that kept him out for like a full month during the portion of the January transfer windows, post-January transfer window rather. So Pinto did see a lot of action due to that. So just compare the two here and what we're looking at.
So let's pop to the statistics tab. Because, I mean, it's good that if you've got 2 goalkeepers who have at least played some games, you can actually... so the top left, there, statistics, we can do the whole goalkeeper thing. Oh, yep. Can we? No, we can't. No, we can't. I never did the goalkeeper part on the skin. Just go to Diogo Pinto normally.
Okay, no problem. Let me go on to him. Okay, that is done.
Yeah, apologies about that.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. I mean, what we can see here is he's much more effective at stopping goals. That's an XG prevented of 0.24. So for every 1 XG generated, he's conceding less than a goal, which is brilliant. In fact, so he concedes 0.97. That's preventing 0.24. So every game that he faces up against, the opposition generates on average 1.21 XG. and he concedes just below a goal from that. Now, if we compare that to Rankovic is he conceded 1.42 goals per game, which was slightly above the XG created. But when Rankovic was in goal, your defense was giving up more XG as part of the whole game. So it might be that Rankovic was. I keep on getting. No, it is Rankovic. He might be being put in a less favourable situation, which is why his performance looks a little bit worse than Diogo Pinto's. Or it could be that Diogo Pinto inspires confidence in his defence in front of him, and that's why the rest of the attributes there, the statistics there seem to be good. So it looks like he loses possession a little bit more frequently. He sweeps up a little bit less frequently, so he's not as good from a sweeper keeper standpoint. He's not as active, certainly sweeping up the balls, and not as good with the ball at his feet. But if those games are equal, if the games that Pinto played and Rankovic played, roughly speaking, were against the same quality of opposition, Pinto looks better.
Yeah. Between the two, Pinto kind of did win the starter role to an extent towards the end of the season, just with the Ratkovic injury playing a hand, and then us trying to ride a hot hand for the course of the remainder of the season. But I do feel that we missed something considerably since Boichero's departure. Because let me show him sort of what he did last year overall. I mean, it's a mixture between his stuff at West Ham after he arrived there, played 16 games for them, but prior to that, he had, quite a few appearances for us during the course of the time here, the amount of goals conceded, things of that nature. So, and from a statistical level with his abilities and whatnot, even just through the circles, you can kind of see he definitely had kind of the right stuff to be a major keeper. So.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Certainly, so my initial reaction to Boicheroux looks quality. Boicheroux does look like a very, very good goalkeeper, and he's performing well in with all due respect to our Portuguese viewers, in a better quality of league. So I can imagine he's very, very good. I think that. So we've got a whole squad to look at. I don't think goalkeeper looks like it's a vital area, but it might well be something that you can look to improve on still yet. That said, Diogo Pinto 0.24 XG prevented. He might be good. He might be very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's go back here then to the views itself. So, and Sverre Angels Mikkelsen, he didn't get a lot of time on his end of the spectrum. He's sort of just been a lone keeper option away, but he is still sort of in that same.
Yeah, so he's like, I don't think it's fair to judge off just 5 appearances. So that looks very bad. Exactly. But 5 games is not really something you can judge on. 24 years old. I mean, if he's happy to stick around, I mean, if you're comfortable with him, like a backup keeper on $1,600 a week is not too bad, really, is it?
Exactly. As a second or third option, it's not too terrible by any stretch of the imagination. So hopefully, I think we should be able to still keep a hold of him. But if a team comes knocking in and wants to take him for that 250 to 1 million, I'm not complaining about it. What I am complaining about is this camera quality. Why is Twitch doing me this dirty? My goodness.
It's weird. It must be something to do with the
together.
See, I've got you very blurry on the stream together. You're more blurry on stream together than you are on the stream for me, weirdly.
That is very, very odd. Interesting. Because when I'm looking at it on my end of the spectrum here, it's like, you look fine, I just look very picky. And of course, there's the delays too. And I can probably take care of those in a moment here. Again,
They're not
this is
delays,
all new,
pixelated suits.
so we appreciate you all fixing. Yeah, in terms.
They're not delays. You're throwing your voice. You're moving your lips first, but actually speaking deliberately, just to throw people off. It's a great party trick.
Oh boy, of course. Well, we'll keep figuring this out eventually here at some point or another. Okay, so from here, in this case, do you want to move on to the defense central or move on to the wing backs first? What do you think?
Let's go right to left. So let's start with the right backs. I think that's going to be an interesting area to look at in detail as well.
Sure. They did need to make the switch here because mainly our primary right back has been for, like I said, we have a couple of options on the system here, like a lot of guys that can be diverse and play across all three positions, but the primaries that we've seen doing either
Oh, I've just lost your audio.
we did get him.
Oh, I've just lost your audio. I got you back now. Apologies.
Okay, cool. No worries, but yeah, fantastic buy a couple of years ago where we found them in Venezuela for 575K, and he's been like a key contributor to the club pretty much since. You can kind of take a look at him. He can play all sorts of positions, but really right back is his best role as a whole. And you can see he does have the kind of progressor badge out of it, which is a good sign when looking at just the way that the skin is structured there as a whole.
Yeah, I mean he looks pretty tasty, doesn't he? I mean, so he's winning. So for a fullback, around 80% tackle win rate would be what I would call good. That's probably in about the 75th percentile for tackle win rate, which isn't shown accurately in the skin only shows the percentiles for tackles won as a raw number, not the percentage. So he's good in his tackles. 50% header win rate is pretty decent for a fullback as well. He's winning possession. He's not losing it. Expected assists. He's creating chances. He's progressing the ball. So if you end up splitting time between the inverted fullback and the attacking fullback, it looks like he's got the quality to do that. That said, the stays back at all times looks a little bit scary if you're going to be playing him more often as a fullback attack. Yeah, like he looks good.
Just doing one quick thing here on my side with the perspectives. I think I got the camera finally to look better. I just had to go into the with Twitch settings to get that adjusted. We should be good to go now, hopefully on that. But yeah, Rojas is a good option. He does have a pretty good value to him. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if there are a couple of teams that do decide to maybe take a look at him with how he's performed over the last 2 to 3 seasons. But it's a wait and see approach. Going back into it though, we do have Marius Milostivu, who is an interesting case in the fact that he is kind of a physical beast at 6'7", 202. That is a hoss of a human being right here. Central back, like center back, has kind of been his like best, more natural role, but he's played a good amount in the wings when needed, just because he can do certain roles on that fairly decently. So he is kind of a backup consideration for those, but primarily he'd be like center back perspective. But looking at him as a fullback, you can kind of see some stats stand out, some aren't so good. As a center back, pretty well, all things considered, but yeah.
Okay, so I will temper what I say with he's 19. He can definitely grow, but there is something very, very scary about a man who is 6'7" but only wins 59% of his headers. So his header win rate. So he's
That's
won
been
5
one of
headers
the
per
big
game,
concerns.
but his header win rate is shocking given his stature. And there's nothing. So he's got elite jumping reach. He's got elite heading. He's got good bravery, good positioning, anticipation, decisions. Like from an attribute standpoint, he should be fine. My only question mark being is maybe it's an issue with his agility. That's something he's not particularly good on at the moment. It does seem very, very shocking that that can't even be explained by him always being target at set pieces. That would mean that he's like challenging for set piece for goal scoring situations, like at a 3 or 4 to 1 ratio to his defensive ones.
Yeah.
So I
There's
mean,
definitely that concern last year, something that stood out when looking at the data as well too. Because tactically wise, most of his games were at center back, with a couple of them at DM, and then a couple spread around the wings as well in terms of his start time. And really, his better performances came from the DM games and his time, the 3 times he was in the right wing. But these are still small enough example sizes compared to his time at center back, where definitely some things in which I'm hoping this next year he does get better at. We did have him put on training near the end of the season to improve his aerial ability, so hopefully that should help with some of the agility related things and just winning those duels a little bit more next season around. So that's the idea. Now, the other 2 guys I wanted to highlight who do play the roles. This man is more of a backup winger at the moment at 17, but he's got kind of the right stuff to be a future starter for us in Portuguese. We found them in Spania, good old Spain. We got him on a free transfer actually from his original club in Antiguoco, and he's turned out kind of to be a brilliant bit of business eventually if we do get to the point where we have to ship him off somewhere else entirely. But 21 appearances, 18 of them as a substitute, but still, we saw a good amount of time and to where we've got these statistics over here.
he looks great. He looks fantastic. I mean, look at that. Naturally, so when you're looking at statistics, there's always going to be a certain amount of give and take. If someone is good at one thing, it means they're probably going to be not as good at some other things. And in particular, if you've got a player who's very creative, as Ruiz is here with his 0.27 expected assists per 90, he's taking more risks, and so he's going to lose the ball a lot more frequently. Hence, quite high 16.76 possession lost. But you don't need to look at that possession lost and go, that's bad, because you can see the good that's coming out of it. He looks sensational. 17 years old. He's on $650 per week, and he's valued at £45 million.
Yeah.
I mean, this is very much an example of, I think you will often hear, so in case people aren't familiar with the Moneyball concept, a lot of it is about finding players undervalued by the market, but also moving players on once they stop being undervalued by the market. Now, to you, he's currently valued at $650 per week, and he's got 2 years left on his contract. Unless those demands suddenly end up around that £30,000-40,000 per week mark, he's going to remain undervalued for you. So there is no reason to ever sell him. Even if you get a bid of 45 million now, you're probably worth holding on to him because his impact on your wage budget is so small. I like Ruiz.
Yeah, right now, Ruiz is pretty great, all things considered. It's someone that I do feel we can build the aspects of this team in the long term in case we have players who are slightly older than him that do play starter roles at the moment move on. He is kind of a key eventual starter for us here, and I wouldn't be surprised if his agents try to renew his deal sometime this year, given how he played during parts of last season, but that's a bridge we can cross when we get there. I do think that this is a guy that could go for 70 to 80 million in the next season or two, just depending on how he plays. So he is someone that I ideally do want to hang on to for dear life if I can help it. So there's that to consider.
I mean, there's probably an element of testing the waters with contract renewals now, because what? So he's got 2 years remaining on his contract. So you probably don't want to let it run until next year, where he might then say, "Hey, I'm opting out and I'm leaving on a free."
Of course, yeah.
And also,
and we do
it's
have quite a lot to play with as well, budgeting wise at the moment. So there is that to consider.
Yeah, and then obviously also understand as early as possible whether it is going to be plausible to renew his contract, or whether, you know, it might be that he says, "Hey, I want 50 grand a week," and you say, "We can't afford that. Let's sell him now," because he has then become too valued. But then it's also scary to find out.
Do this as a get what it is. But you know what? We are. It's a new adventure, so we can make a bit of an adventure. We can talk to his agent right now and just see what they are gauging that to be at the moment. So he's a future prospect at 650 per week until 2034. If we do wanted to re-sign him, he'd only be wanting between 2.8 per week and 3.4 per week. So that's still a massive amount of value. NH Tank, hello. Thank you for the resubscription there. Mustard Fury stream, let's go. Yes, yes indeed. Dill, hello, hello. Good to see you as well. So, I do like to push back a little bit on salary just to see if we can get a slightly better value. Between 2.5k and 3.1k, which hey,
that's not too bad. And see if we can push up that minimum fee release clause as well when it comes to actually.
Oh, of course, yeah. So we got the we'll do a stall at the moment just to say, you know, thanks and all that stuff. But I definitely think we can work with that if we do give him some extras. What I do want to do though, for the time being, since he's not quite ready to be a starter just yet, is to regulate the rules. I do see him as a star player in 2 years though, so I am willing to kind of go up the ladder on that. And he is willing to agree to that as well too, which is great.
Do you ever
here's what we can
do. You ever set targets? Have you ever had much experience with?
Every once in a blue moon, I will. What I will usually do for my contract negotiations, because I am confident we're a good enough team to not be relegated, I will usually give relegation clauses at 0, and that helps massively when trying to stretch certain contracts. Now, for Ruiz, I am willing to do a bigger loyalty bonus if it means we can increase this release clause. I'm looking at 80 million at minimum, and just to kind of semi-negotiably lock that in. So what I'm going to try to do, I think 3K is fair for him at this juncture, just because it's not as much as they wanted initially, but still a good balance between being too cheap to, you know, doing too much. A shutout bonus, I'm willing to do 500 for him when he is playing on yearly salary. I do want to make that 5% instead, if it can be helped. But to offset that, I'm going to do it to where if he gets 10 assists, we'll give him an extra 350k as a bonus. Sure, why not? Let's adjust the terms and see. And look at that. Good negotiations. And we have a big minimum release clause, which is essential for Moneyballing 101. So here we go. We've got ourselves quite a deal here. So from the right wingers, we're going to move over to the center now, which
could I just
got a couple
stick with
that we can talk about?
Just out of interest with Ruiz, just to stick on him for a second. Do you see him more as a right back or a left back?
Between the two, more of a left back option because of the left-footedness helping. It is nice that he is a natural on both sides if we need it for injury depth and what have you on that. But naturally, he'd be a successor on the left, which I guess We can transition to the left instead, since we can talk about the starter at that role at the moment, which is Christopher Boda Bro.
What a name.
20
What a
years
name.
old, considered KBB, kind of a beast, to say the least. At 20, he was kind of an emergency get for us. I want to say it was season 7, season 8, something along those lines, in which we had a gentleman named Saif Jassin, who was a part of that role, a wonder kid that we found in the Middle East. Wolfsberger ended up meeting his release clause way back when, and you can kind of see why with the way his transfer value is and all that stuff. But he was a bit of business where we got him for 245K, sold him for 18.5 million. So, pretty good bit of business there, but we needed a elite starter at the time when we brought up Bro. We did get a bit desperate. We did spend 9 million to get him, but at the same time, he is worth 35-40 million now, so we'd still be making like 4 or 5 times our value from the initial get for him. So let's go into his fullback stats, and you can kind of see, as our primary starter, he did have a couple of games where he played up in the attacking mid-left as well, but primarily all of his games were mostly in the left wing here as our primary fullback, wingback option there. And you can kind of see he did shine on a lot of particular aspects here. I'm not expecting him to win headers by any stretch, in the possession lost is a bit of a concern, but everything else clicked for him this season considerably.
I mean, so a couple of things. Again, the same thing we expect with Ruiz for possession lost. He's creative. Creative comes with risk, so you're going to lose possession more. I wouldn't say that looks overly concerning. Would you be able to click on the little positions icon, so where you've got his positions up in the top right of the profile? No, that bit, yeah. So 5 games were at AML where he got 6 of his goal contributions. Does that feel about right?
Yes.
Cool. So looking at this, what I see, if you click back on the positions again, this will hide the information.
Perfect. Yep.
We've got a player who's really, really good here as well. He's more dribbly than Ruiz was, less creative than Ruiz. So Ruiz was at 0.27 expected assists, I think. Bro wins his tackles at a higher percentage, 83%, headers at a slightly lower percentage. Now, he's a really, really good player. A really, really good player. Sell him. No, so
fair.
Joking aside, we've got Bro picking up a contract for $3,000 per week. So he's going to be earning 14 times less than Bro. Bro is a better player. Bro does he scores, which Ruiz didn't score at all, I believe. He does complete more dribbles. He does win his tackles at a higher percentage. Ultimately, Bro is more rounded. However, from a value perspective, you can take 40k off your wage budget. That triples your wage, your spare wage allowance there, which might allow you to reinforce other places. I see that behind the international icon above his lovely curly mane, there's a little green square as well. Is that a wanted square to the left behind his hair?
Yep. Ghent
He is wanted.
And Inter Milan are starting to sniff around for him. Yes. They're unwilling to make an offer while the transfer window was closed, but it's something that we can expect come around June to maybe have these two teams start knocking. And I'm not sure what Ghent's finances are like nowadays in this particular version of the save, but Inter 100% could afford this particular range. So
yeah, so I mean, there may well be more pressing needs in the squad. There may not. Now, I did have a poke around the save. I think you keep about a third of your transfer revenue, right?
Yeah, from the looks of it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So even if you were to sell for 30 million, you'd really have to be spending less than 10 million on a. You get less than 10 million out of that. So obviously something to be mindful of. It, $35 million sounds great, but it's not actually that great.
Yeah, so it looks like at the moment they have us at 58% of the budget available. I think it doesn't let me. I can request for the percentage to be increased, and hopefully, with the amount of money we do have on the bank, they will let me have that over the next couple of weeks. So it's something to explore later on at that portion. But yeah, it's been mostly somewhere between 30 to 50% of the transfer budget being retained, which, given that the club has had a new stadium, the expansion of the stadium, and things like that, I believe that is the reason why it hasn't been made as available in terms of the budget. But I just try to do what I can with what I'm given at this juncture. So
yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, so yeah, like he's a really, really good player. But I would say potentially, being the tight ass bastard that I am when it comes to wages, he might be someone you could move on to strengthen other places. What are your backup left back options like? So we've seen Ruiz. Do we have further depth in this area?
We've seen Ruiz. In terms of it, the other depth wise, Mitchell Sons is mostly a center back, so we'll focus on him a little bit later, but he can play left back in situations that are needed. Same with Milostivo. Juan Diego Mena is the next guy aboard. He's just been doing a lot of second team work in the past seasons, but I do think I would be willing to bring him on for a couple of games this year as a backup option if needed be. It's definitely a position where, worst comes to worst, if we need to get a third left back for depth, we could do that. But I do want to see what Mania is made of. These are his appearances on the B team itself, so he didn't have too many of them, but some things that I did like, but those were again against lesser competition, so it's hard to tell on the main team basis if he would work out or whether he'd be kind of a hindrance to the team as a whole. So
does that say possession lost 1.22? It does.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So he's been playing as a centre back, I take it, for the reserves. Generally speaking, like you will expect that fullbacks for reserves will lose. Like a good fullback possession loss will be around 7 or 8. A good centre back for possession loss will be around 3 or 4. That's like really, really good. So even if he's playing against scrubs, he's 22 years old. To only lose the ball one time a game is sensational. Very, very safe, which is something you can probably work around as cover. 64% headers won.
Yeah.
He's 5'11", so yeah, he's probably more of like if you're playing with an inverted fullback on the right, he looks like very good cover there. So the sample size, Hank, it's 1,766 minutes. So the games played thing goes really funky when you're looking at players in B teams. But I can deduce that he was playing at centre back from his possession loss numbers, because I think it's virtually impossible for a fullback to end up with those kind of possession loss numbers from playing experience, that is. But that doesn't mean he can't be a fullback. I didn't explain that well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he.
I do.
Sorry.
You're fine here. I'm just doing one last thing because I'm looking just through the Twitch settings again as well too, and it said about the when you send the audio with the camera, if you had the browser supposed to mute the mic in the scene or disable the sound.
Yeah, no worries. Whilst you're doing that, I will just talk nonsense. By the way, hello Hank, hello Winter Soldier. Who else was in here? Pixelated's in, Dill's in. We've got Hung Dem in as well. We've got Hung Dem in. Lovely to see you, my dude. So yeah, like I think that Juan Mania certainly worth giving a shot. Like, there's no harm in it. He's got a year left on his contract from the looks of things. He's relatively low value, so you've got a certain element of he's got very little transfer value, right? So $450,000 to $1 million dollars. If you sell him this summer, you're not going to make much money that's going to make any difference to you. So it's almost worth you keeping him. And if he turns out to not be good enough and leave on a free, then that's fine. You're not going to get a replacement in that's at that kind of wage that's guaranteed to be better. So from a risk assessment kind of thing, you can have him there. You can try him out. He can suck, and you've not really lost out. Jordan Morris is also here in Spirit Fair. I am indeed. I've unmuted there now. So yeah, is that coming through? So I'm back. I'm not anymore. I've gone again. Hello again, maybe. They're saying no sound.
Are you on my end? Hold on here.
They can hear me, but not you.
Okay.
From the thing. So Ben.
Okay, there we go. I think now I should be back. I see myself now on the.
Oh, that's a relief. To test the sound, I was going to say something really mean about Dutch people, but because then if I got an immediate response from Holland, I would have known that Mike's fine.
Yep. Hold on here. Wait a sec. Yeah, again, some of this stuff is super bizarre. I think it's Twitch causing it as well too, to a certain extent. So, and thank you, Hank. I appreciate it.
I didn't, but I didn't bully you. I deliberately didn't say anything mean about Dutch people. We're all good.
All right. So, let's. Okay,
so
let me try this instead here. Am I coming through okay, just to make sure with everybody here, even if there's like a slight delay, perhaps? Right.
Yeah, all fine.
hold on
All good. We
here.
can hear you both.
So it seems like they're fine on our side. Perfect. Okay. So we can talk about Nikita Michelson's now. So as for him, initially when we did get him, he was over in Latvia. He did come through as a free transfer after his early years at RFS. We did have him on loan to União de Tomar, USG, for about a season, and then over the past 2 years, he's just gradually worked his way into the starter role. At 21, he's a little bit older now than a wonder kid, but he was considered one of the best wonder kids in the world when we initially got him. Value's been super increased ever since, and as a center back, he's just been kind of lovely as a whole. Super aggressive as a defender in a good way. We don't count on